Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon also to all the people watching in streaming. And okay, let's start it because okay. I'm going to talk about how actually look at the SERPs. If this works. But I have to point. Okay. First of all, a disclaimer. I'm not SEMrush, I'm not Ahrefs. So sincerely, everything I'm going to say and everything I usually say, also on Twitter and blog posts, is not based on massive analysis of SERPs. I don't have the time. I'm a freelance. So or I do massive analysis of millions and millions of SERPs, or I work. And sincerely, I have to pay bills. So I mostly do everything based on experience, experiments I do, and intuition. I think intuition is something that we should value more in SEO. And everything I say, I invite you, if you want to give to what I'm saying a more solid scientific base, go do massive tests. Probably I'm right, but if you want to give a scientific base to what I'm saying, feel free to do all the tests you want. In October, I did this tweet, and I think it was a quite obvious observation. But it seems that from the reaction, many people were thinking, ooh, and it was something, why? Why people are so reacting to this really obvious observation I did about that people should stop watching things only through the eyes of an SEO tools and go looking at the SERPs directly. AJ Kong gave me a good reason to this frenzy about my tweet. It was saying, okay, because we need to observe directly the SERPs, especially when updates are coming, because we can see the difference between before and after an update. But actually, I think that observing the SERPs is useful not just after an update, it's useful always. And it's a too often forgot practice for so many things. I'm an international SEO, but I'm also a strategic SEO. So what I usually do with my clients is to set up a strategy, an SEO strategy, and then what tactics are the best ones to achieve the purposes of this strategy. And why it's important to look at the SERPs when we are designing a strategy for SEO? Because of this. This is the Google mission. Our mission is to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. If we read it well, we have all Google here. Universally accessible is everything related to crawling, indexing, page speed, and blah, blah, blah. And in my case, what is important is organize useful information. But for who? One of the biggest mistakes we do as an SEO is, it's not a mistake, obviously, we have to think about our user. But we forget that we should also think about the user of Google, or what Google thinks are its user. The two things not necessarily are the same. They are not synonyms. So, a little bit of dictionary. Search intent. The search intent is the implicit and explicit intent users have when performing a search on Google. Relevance, which is coming a lot right now. How much a document is able to answer the search intent that Google, not us, Google, as individuated, its users have when doing a search. in fact, this is the definition of a dictionary. Relevance, the ability, information retrieval system to retrieve material that satisfies the need of a user. We always have to think that we are talking to our user through the lens of Google. And SERP, the presentation of the documents Google calculated as relevant to its user search intent. So that's why we need to look at the SERPs, because they are substantially telling us what we try to discover. So we have to think, more than think with Google, think like Google. Search intent analysis, this is the biggest work we are doing, because every time we talk about an update, quality update, core update, or whatever name, Barrog update, Florida 2, whatever you want to name an update, is usually about these things. Google, it's already 7 years ago, introduced the concept of micro-moments. The micro-moments are these 4 micro-moments Google was suggesting to marketers in Think with Google blog about how people are searching for something. There are the I want to know moments, the I want to go moments, the I want to do moments, and I want to buy moments. It's a really good way to describe in a synthetic way the so-called customer journey or the search customer journey. So, I want to go moments. I start from this one because apparently it's the easiest one to understand. So the I want to go moments when someone is looking for a local business or is considering buying a product at a nearby store. So it seems just about local search. Actually, it's not so. Obviously, there is a physical need. I want to discover a shop close to me. For instance, I'm here, we are in the lunch break, and I want to know where to eat. But it's also virtual, let's say. Most of the time, the servers are telling us that the intent is mixed. People like me, for instance, I paint miniatures since I was a kid. This one is actually, you cannot see it, but should be a miniature behind it. When I search for buying miniatures to paint, Google is always offering me the 2 options, online, offline. So this is a very little example of how what we think are the classic navigational, transactional, and informational nature of intent, search intent, in reality are really blended. There is no just one informational search intent. There is no just one navigational search intent. And there is no just one transactional search intent. For instance, talking about blending, when we are doing what should be a so-called navigational search, actually we can also have a transactional intent behind it. These are what usually some people call as commercial investigation. They can be strongly navigational when they are branded. So they are branded searches that specify a product or a service in order to find the right place in a website that we already want to know. And actually Google is, I don't know if you know it, but Google, when you present the SERPs, substantially preload what are the pages that he thinks people are going to click on. And I don't remember the name of the Chrome extension that is actually showing you what pages Google is preloading, but it's easy to understand. For instance, if I'm searching for Lord of the Rings miniatures or by Warhammer, Google knows that I want to go to the Game Workshop website. And what this kind of SERPs are teaching us? This kind of SERPs are teaching us that something like faceted navigation, and categorization is essential. It's a really extremely important part of a website that we have to care, especially faceted navigation, which usually I see many times people tend to hide to the browser, to the crawlers, because these are the kind of pages that are coming out. And then there is the so-called informational intent. In micro moments, we can call it the I want to know moments and I want to do moments. Why we have to care about the informational? Because obviously the 80% of the searches are informational, but also because of relevance, especially not relevance in the sense of in the meaning of a single document, but of a domain relevance. It's always hard to try to depict how Google works. This is my idea, how Google works. We know that relevance is the most important things that Google algorithm calculate. In fact, after the last core update, the only things that was interesting said by Search Liaison was that the core update was not about a specific ranking factor, but about Google, how Google is calculating the relevance of the web document for the queries. So relevance is the main subject of the algorithm. And what we know about the factors? We know from Google that there are 3 buckets of factors: the content-related factors, the link-related factors, and rank brain, which is something that we don't know. We know the only thing that we know about rank brain is that, as already Search Liaison told us, Search Liaison is Danny Sullivan. He told us that rank brain is an AI machine learning based system that helps Google to connect concept and entities between them. And then, since last year, we have also neural matching working, which is again an AI machine learning based system Google has of, let's say, better understanding content, literally content, in the sense of syntax and super synonyms. So if we are using a metaphor, for instance, for saying something, Google can, thanks to neural matching, understand that we are talking about that, something that we are expressing with a metaphor. Then we also know that there is AAT. AAT are not ranking factor, but are substantially what aims to be a good page about. We know that expertise is related to content. We know that trustworthiness is related to links and to content. And we know that authority is related to links. So if we create good content for that 80% of searches that are relevant, that are informational, we can obtain links, so build authority. We can build up through our content expertise about the topic. And if we are good in entity research, we can also touch the right brain factors. So let's try to do an experiment. Breslavia is the Italian translation of, let's try it, I hope I pronounce it well, of Wrocław. Wrocław, correct? That one. So, when I search for Breslavia, let's say starting a search about Breslavia, Google is showing me the knowledge panel, okay, obviously, the Google Travel Guide, which is interesting. And what we can see? We see related searches, so Cracovia, Poznan, Warsaw, Danzig, Lodz, these are related entities. If we go down, we can see images, so we can suppose that images are important. And then related searches. Every tool is going to give us this information. But, for instance, SEMrush is really good because When we do a search, SEMrush is giving us the related searches. I think also Ahrefs does the same. What they don't do is this. You know, but when we click on a search results and go to a page and go back to the search results, Google is showing us under the search results the new other related searches. No tool is giving us these related searches. So it's a good idea to map these related searches. If we do this, and just looking at them, we can already know what people are searching when, for instance, they are searching about information about Wrocław, Breslavia. So what we can see, for instance, that an Italian user, because obviously related searches are different depending on the geography, an Italian user, when he thinks about Wrocław, is thinking about few places that are really touristic places or tourist worthy to visit, like the marketplace, the old buildings, the gnomes. They also probably want to look at Breslavia and Wrocław as a place where to start visiting also the nearby cities. That's why we have things like distance between Breslavia and Warsaw, distance cities with close to Breslau, Poznan, Katowice, and so on. And we also see Breslavia and Wrocław and Christmas and Wrocław New Year's Eve. So that means that probably Italian users are searching for this destination like a travel destination more than for the summer and more than for the spring as a Christmas destination. But there is another features in the SERPs. Usually when we think at the SERPs, we only think at the first SERP we see, the universal search. But if we want to do a correct entity analysis, I really suggest you to go to the image search. You know, when we do an image search, we see all the tags Google is showing us above the image. These are the tags of the image search of Breslavia, Wrocław. And these are all the entities that Google considers relevant to the Italian public about Wrocław. So if we are going to write a guide about Wrocław, we should talk about this stuff. And what are these stuff? It's similar to the related searches information we had, but it is going deeper. For instance, it's revealing us why people are coming here for Christmas because of a Christmas market. It seems to be a really famous Christmas market here in Wrocław, or really important. Is talking about, again, the gnomes, but it's talking about also these strange figures of a light gas worker who is in this downtown, historic downtown, is lighting all the old gas lighting. It's coming out twice, Lampoionaio and Lampione. Is telling us what kind of churches we should talk about, and many other things. For instance, the Hansel and Gretel. Why Hansel and Gretel for Wrocław? As you discover that there is a house that is called the Hansel and Gretel building. So these are the entities that are important to the Italian public related to Wrocław. Then, obviously, we can use the Google Suggest. I'm glad that we are talking less about Google Suggest nowadays than just a few years ago, because I was seeing many people just writing stuff based on Google Suggest, and it was substantially 99% of the time shitty things. And if you have seen before the related searches and the tags of image search, you can see that let's say, the Google suggests is substantially repeating the same things. Once we have identified the topics, which are the entities, we can start a keyword research. We can start searching with our own Search Console data if we already are targeting them, doing a very, very quick content update of our own website, when using the keyword gap tool of SEMrush, the content gap analysis by Ahrefs. And I think that the Ahrefs just yesterday announced that they large empowered the tools and find new keywords, not find new URLs by keyword planning is another way to enlarge our keyword base. And just two quick tip alert. For instance, if we are using SEMrush, usually people SEO quit, delete the CPC and competition columns. Don't do it. Even if you are doing SEO and you are not doing AdWords. Why? Because if we see that the competition is low, probably it's an informational query. But if there is some kind of CPC value, then it's not only an informational query. It may also have a transactional intent beyond the information. For instance, mejores cámaras analógicas, which best analogical camera in English, is informational query. But actually it's the informational query just before the transactional. That's why we have Google Shopping above the feature snippet. And why it's important to know it and then eventually go to see the SERPs, because this can explain us why maybe we are ranking number 1 in the first position and having no traffic from this keyword. Obviously, because we are below the fold and nobody is clicking on us, even if we are in the first position. And this is a really easy way also to explain to our client that maybe we should start targeting other keywords. And also to explain that you are doing fine, you have not been hit by any penalization. Another tip alert, remember when we were seeing the knowledge panel of the Wroclaw SERPs, and there was the knowledge graph of Wroclaw. Google is really smart. It was putting something like this. Plan your trip in the knowledge graph. So, okay, travel guide of a place and average price for the hotel. Okay? So people is seeing this, clicking there, go to Google Hotels and steal practically traffic and conversion to tourist sites, travel sites. Usually these keywords are all informational because you can see competition, which is this one, is really low. And also, but they have transaction because the CPC showing some CPC cost, but it's really low. So do like Booking. This is a really simple tactics that Booking.com is using. And it's substantially buying the CPC slot. It's the only ads for this kind of searches, which is location search and so on. So do it. Then always choose tools that can give you insights. Why? Because if we see that some searches have related searches, people also ask using this methodology suggested by Build Visible, which is based on using substantially Screaming Frog, we can scrape all the questions so we can have a base for creating content. And second, because the SERP features are hints about the searcher's needs that we should prioritize. If we see in our keyword database that we have retrieved that there is a predominance of ads of all kinds, then surely that keyword has a purchase intent. If we see that has knowledge graph, carousels, feature snippet, and people also ask is knowledge intent, informational intent. If we see presence of answer boxes, quick answers, intent. Forget this keyword. Don't try to work for these keywords. If we have presence of local search or local packs, probably Google is thinking that there is a local intent, local search intent behind it. So if we are a website that is fighting for a keyword where there is local, and we have no local presence, then maybe it could be interesting to start trying to think also in a business strategy in order to attract people that are going to shop, and so offering them something like free shipping or easy ways to return goods and so on. Or maybe also, let's say, local boxes, drop shipping boxes in the city. Obviously, if we see something like this is image. That means that we should work for image search. If there is video, we should work for videos, not only as a content, but also as a strategy on YouTube. And if there is news, so we should probably create a content strategy to outreach news website in order to stay there. But another thing that we should pay attention is how, the search menu is changing depending on the search, and the order is telling us what is the priority. For instance, in this case, the priority is news, and then videos, and then image. In other searches can be image, then local, then video. So this is giving us a tips. And also it's giving us about how to format our content. Going back to the Yugoslavia SERP, we can see, okay, it's a travel guide, it's topics list, image, travel guide. So it's clear. If we are targeting people searching information about Yugoslavia, we have to to create a top X thing to see in, which is the best way. So it's actually a travel guide. And if you have done the job that I showed you before, you can rank for this keyword, which is quite hard to rank for Yugoslavia. Also, if you are an Alter Vista website and only free linking domain to your domain, it's true. This post is an Alter Vista website, has nobody linking to it, but it's ranking in the top 10 for this search. Why? Because it's targeting all the entities and connecting them together really well. Plus, it has done wonderful image search optimization, because images are important and relevant for Google for this search. Transactional. I'm going really fast because I have people touching me. So there are two moments: ready to purchase something and may need help deciding what or how to purchase something. The first one is really easy. All the triggers like buy, offer, blah, blah, blah are easy to understand. If we see in our keyword database, all these ones are transactional, pure transactional. They are also really easy to understand. However, again, pay attention to the other features, because for instance, in this search, which is a summer t-shirt, we can see the presence of images. So Google is essentially telling us, don't vomit written content in product pages, because people just want to see the t-shirt, okay? And again, local. So try to think about easy way to send, recover things also locally. Pay attention, because the 46% of searches have a local intent. This one is more tricky, may need help. Usually these are comparison searches, like best camera X versus camera Y, and so on. So this means that in the SERPs we see, or in the tools with a SERP feature showing, we see a balanced presence of, a predominant presence of ads, but also presence of knowledge boxes like people also ask or feature snippet. So actually these are the SERPs that people are really ready to buy something but needs a last nudge for buying. Don't do the mistake to create all informational pieces of content for this kind of SERPs, or to create informational content targeting the same keyword, because in this case you are risking a lot keyword cannibalization. So to rank for an informational piece of content which is not able to convert. Instead, try to create a transactional pillar page. This is for insurance. It's a long transactional landing page. So we have the first of a CTA, which is going to send us to the form, and then information that is answering substantially to all the questions that people is asking. Doing so, my client was able to have really outstanding results from just one page, because it was able to target all the questions, so the nudge, and it was having the call to action really prominent, so people going to this page was going ready to the form for asking about insurance. Closing. Information and navigation and transactional are not valid anymore, because you see, it's all blended. We should look at the SERPS features in order to understand which is the blend. And stop thinking about top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, and bottom, and top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, and bottom of the funnel, because the funnel is something like this. It's more like a galaxy, a spiral. People are starting, I may start go with a direct navigational search, because I already know where I want to go to buy something, like when I want to go where I'm miniatures. But then maybe I want to know something more, because maybe I'm questioning myself, I will be able to paint this kind of stuff, how can I paint it? So I go back, and so on. So it's not, the process of search is not from top to bottom, it's maybe top from bottom directly without passing from muffle, and so on, and vice versa. And needed to run, and I stop, finish. If you have a question, I'm here.